Our next speaker is Alex Rex from the Northamptonshire Community Foundation, who's going to talk to you about the network of community foundations and grants and that kind of thing. Over to Alex.
Thanks, Martin. So I'm obviously not from the world of community radio. So community foundations. What is a community foundation? So it's actually something that started over in America. The sort of I think it was 1917. The first one was set up in Boston, and then it made its way over to the UK. So community foundations, unlike national funders that you'll obviously have heard of, like the National Lottery or Arts Council or Children Need, Comic Relief, community foundations are very much about place-based giving. So it's in the name. It's about community and it's about place-based. So that means that part of the work that they do is to work with local philanthropists, so local people, individuals, families, trusts, corporates who want to give back to the community that they are based in. This means that we are able to look at the root causes and problems that are very specific to our area and be able to tackle those and rather than be cause specific, so whether that be sports or arts or children, young people, it's actually about being place specific. And that obviously ties in perfectly to what you do as community radio stations. You are place specific. So as I said, we work with a whole host of range of different people who want to give back to their community in a monetary way. So that's being able to fund community projects that will support the work of the voluntary and community sector. So we've got quite an influential model that's able to, as I said, be able to really tap into those local donors. Many of you will have community foundations in your local area. So there's a network of 47 accredited community foundations across the UK. So there are country ones, which include Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, but pretty much every county within England has a community foundation. Some cover several areas like Heart of England, others cover maybe a specific urban area like Manchester just covers Manchester rather than the whole sort of county area. But you will be able to find your local community foundation. As I said, we're a network of 47 community foundations. We all operate individually, but as a network, we can also come together to deliver national funding as well. So whether that's, for example, during COVID-19, we were able to deliver funding on behalf of the National Emergencies Trust and also DCMS. So there are times that we can deliver large pots of funding from government, but we also have our own individual pots of funding. I can't think of how many individual pots of funding we have at Northamptonshire Community Foundation. We have a lot. Some of them are relatively small and might be quite specific in what it's trying to achieve because the donor has a specific passion or interest that they're into. Others are quite large and very broad. So there's lots of different ways that you can tap into funding locally in your area. So the next question would be obviously, how do you apply? So if you go onto the UKCF website, so UKCF is our sort of our national umbrella organisation in terms of, and represents our network. You'll be able to go on there and find your local one. Then go onto their website, and I really urge you to contact and speak to the grants team. So whether that's picking up a phone or popping them an email, because essentially what we're always trying to do as community foundations is get money out the door into the community. We're not trying to be gatekeepers of funding or goalkeepers. We're trying to make sure that the funding gets out and supports projects that are going to really have an impact in the community. The majority of The funding is available through online applications, and it's normally a pretty straightforward process. This is because the majority of funding that we give out, it's going to be different amongst different community foundations, but the majority is normally those 3 to 5K projects, sometimes a bit larger, but it's those small grassroots projects that can really have an impact in a small community, or even in a large community, but because it's obviously powered by the voluntary and community sector, that amount of money can go a long way and have a big impact. I'll just talk to you about general eligibility and due diligence. As I said, we are all different, so there's going to be different wording, there might be slightly different criteria, which is why I really urge you to, when you find out who your community foundation is, to contact the team and speak to them directly. But just in general terms, the majority of the time, the funding's focused on supporting either registered charities, constituted community groups. It could also be social enterprises, so whether you're registered as a CIC or a CIO. I know in NLive's case, when they came to us, they initially set up a corporated group, which is Friends of NLive Radio, so that they were able to apply for funding from us. Then we'd also ask that you're based in the area that the Community Foundation is focused on. So if you're based in Durham, there's no point applying to Norwich or anything like that, just apply to your local one, basically. And then also we ask that there's a minimum of three committee members, 3 trustees who are responsible, because we don't give to individuals. That's the general rule with all community foundations. It's about supporting groups. Again, just some other due diligence things just to be aware of before you start down the journey of applying for grant funding is also just make sure that you've got a bank account that's in your the name of the organisation that you're applying in, that it's got at least 2 bank signatories on it. We also ask for things like copies of policies, which I'm sure you will all have, like your equality policy, safeguarding, those kinds of things. We ask for a constitutional governing documents, and then also things like a set of accounts and an independent reference. That's sort of generally what most community foundations, but also most funders in general, if you're going to the National Lottery, Community Fund, or other types of organisations, those are what are needed, basically. So let's say that you find your local community foundation, you have got all the bits of paperwork that you need, you've got the governance in place so that you can receive funding and get a project off the ground. So how do you then go about applying and thinking of a project? So what we most like to say is think about what is the need in your area. So if we use the T-GROW exercise, so the topic, what is the issue, what is the need in your area? So sadly, in Northampton at the moment, we've got knife crime issues, so serious youth violence issues. That is a high area of need at the moment. So how can you as a community radio station tackle that? So is it that you want to engage local young people into talking about issues that are affecting them? So is that you want to do maybe a podcast series about county line drug issues, gangs, knife crime? Do you want to engage young people to speak about this issue? That's something that you could do. Then you would think about, okay, so we know what the issue is. What do we want to achieve? So is it that you want to achieve something like, if we take the example of knife crime, obviously reduce antisocial behaviour, reduce youth crime, increase educational opportunities, increase training opportunities. Those are things that your objectives and goals that you want to achieve. But it could be something else. Obviously, it could be something that you want to do, let's say, a radio drama series and engage the local Amdram theatre community in what you're doing. in which case it's going to be things like increased creative opportunities. So you've got what the issue is, you know what you want to achieve, so then thinking about the reality, so where are you now? So what resources do you already have that you can utilise? So that might be obviously your premises, your studio, whatever bits of tech you need. It might be that you've got a partnership, an existing partnership like NLive has with the university, or perhaps some specific youth groups. Or it might be that you've got some trained staff or volunteers that you want to work with. But also part of that is thinking about what you need. So if you know that you've got these resources, what are you lacking in those resources? So it might be that you are lacking those partnerships. You might be lacking, for instance, if you want to do some work with young people, you might be lacking a youth worker or a youth volunteer to be able to engage those young people. So thinking about what you've got and what you need to get to make this project happen. Then the possibilities, so thinking about how can you get that. So if, for instance, let's use, again, sticking with the example about serious youth violence, you might be thinking about, okay, we know that there are some other voluntary community sector organisations out there who are doing work about youth violence. So I'm sure you've got plenty of community organisations local to your area that are tackling this. For example, in Northampton, we've got organisations like Off the Streets NN, which is about getting knives off the streets and teaching young people about how to tackle serious bleeds. So they have bleed kits out and about in the community. It could also be that you've got perhaps some local cadets, for instance. There are so many different options that you could have a look at and get possibilities to connect to, have conversations with, and start planning about how you could put together a project. And then the will. So how committed are you? So really that means that obviously it takes time. You've got to plan a project. If you need to get other partners or stakeholders involved, it's having those conversations, it's writing the application, it's getting it in, and then obviously then that's almost like the beginning, because then you've got to deliver the project that you've just got funding for. So you've got to take that into consideration as well. So with community foundations, just to sort of say as well, some are a bit like us at Northamptonshire Community Foundation, where we put all of our different kinds of funds up on our website for organisations to read through and then select the one that's most appropriate to them. Others have like a one front door application, and then behind the scenes the teams are sort of matching up to different funds and pots that they've got available at the time. So again, that's just another reason why I would say contact your community foundation, have a chat with them, see what's available. So the next step is obviously just to find out who your local community foundation is. Obviously have a look on the UKCF website, or just type in your local area plus community foundation into Google and you'll probably find it. And then just pick up the phone, send out an email, and obviously look at what different types of funding are available. Thanks. And if you've got any questions, just let me know.